Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Ashley Campbell from Student Services, and I want to thank you for joining us in learning more about social and emotional learning in Richardson ISD. And thank you to Parent University and Miguel Benitez for bringing this opportunity for us to collaborate and bring this to our community and families. And Miguel's going to talk a little bit about logistics with Parent University and how you can access some of their previous recordings, and then also interpretation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, RISD Student Services for, doing this for us and providing this wonderful information to our families. So my name is Miguel Benitez, and I'm the Director of Family Engagement. And I do want to talk to you a little bit about how to access some of these wonderful presentations, because we are recording them in English and we also are recording them in Spanish. And we have our RISD translation and interpretation liaison, Teresa Ordóñez, who is doing the interpretation right now. So want to thank her for that. But the way you can access these presentations and others is by going and visiting our RISD website. And what you will do is you will just view on the right-hand side there's a little menu with some icons, and you'll look for Parent Corner. When you click on Parent Corner, it's going to open up Parent University. You'll see it, and what you'll do is you'll look for the Parent University tab and go all the way down, and you will find our video library. That's where all these presentations live. And so they're there for you to access. We not only have this wonderful presentation, but Student Services also has done some other presentations on cyberbullying and cyber safety. We have other presentations with focus and virtual platforms. So there's a lot of great information there for you to access. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, for taking a little bit of your time to learn a little bit about social and emotional learning. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. Ashley.
All right, thank you. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm part of Student Services. I am the SEL program specialist for the district. And just a little bit about Student Services, we do serve students. In our department, we have the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Department, Counseling Services, Student Welfare, and a variety of other services that serve our students in our community. And SEL is one of the ways that we do serve students. So what we hope that you'll get out of tonight is, if you aren't familiar with social and emotional learning, or SEL, you'll get a basic definition and understanding of social and emotional learning. And then also, probably the most important thing is what SEL looks like in RISD. You'll find that we approach SEL a little bit differently than other districts, and I think we do a great job of meeting those social and emotional needs of our students. And then lastly, you'll learn ways that you can engage social and emotional learning both at home and then also within the RISD community. So what is SEL? Okay, so in this picture here, this graphic here, we have a picture of a wheel that is considered the social and emotional learning framework. And this comes to us from CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And the 5 competencies in the middle are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And so those are the areas that we address in Richardson ISD. But I want to show you a quick video, or part of a video, that not only shares what social and emotional learning is from an educator point of view, but most importantly from a parent point of view. So we're just going to watch a little bit about what some educators are saying about social and emotional learning, and then what parents are saying about the benefits for their students at home.
As parents, we know that there is more to raising a child than teaching reading, writing, history, and math. Raising a child means that schools and parents must work together to create safe and supportive environments while helping children to understand themselves, understand others, and make responsible decisions.
It's important for children to see that they have role models that aren't always the ones that they expect to have.
You know that saying that parents are the first teachers, that's very true, because I think that as a school, there's only so much that we can do.
I think parent involvement in school is huge because I think it's really important when kids feel the partnership that their families have with the school. And so we work to have structures and systems in place that will help kids be able to do those things.
Social and emotional learning, or SEL, is how children and adults understand and manage their emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions.
When adults are modeling SEL for students, whether it's parents or teachers or staff members, they're really building relationships with one another, which ultimately impacts how they work with one another as adults.
I think it's really, really important for them to be self-aware. I think being able to identify their emotions and deal with them, it's sometimes really important to be able to stop and reflect.
We're intellectual, emotional creatures. To learn the skills necessary, one has to have both a healthy internal life and external life. And so being self-aware of that is really critical.
First of all, we have to learn how to manage our stress ourselves.
How to deal with stress. In today's society where everything just seems to go 90 miles an hour, you have to just take a time out yourself.
I mean, it's important to be shown to him that there's different ways to deal with stressful situations.
Teach them how to deal with emotions.
Like, did we give them the skills to be able to handle conflict or resolve conflict?
When kids are able to process their own feelings, acknowledge what's going on with others around them, not only for others, but for oneself, right? Forgiveness and what led to this? How might I do this differently?
They have to have a sense of empathy. They have to have respect for other people, other cultures.
I want him to learn how to interact with other kids, how to play, how to cooperate, how to do things together, also have fun.
I think that has been the best thing with my relationship with my daughter, that she's able to communicate well with others, speak her feelings.
That's important because the world around us is all about relationships. Our children need to be able to guide themselves through there so that they can achieve those things that they need to achieve and be able to communicate them effectively.
I'm always thinking about how are we potentially impacting students in a way that will make them think twice? Like, how are we helping them make good decisions?
He's starting to understand that why do one thing instead of another and how it affects other people. Explaining to him his actions have influence on his quality of life.
I think our children need to be able to be confident enough to articulate what they're feeling and to be able to just showcase their strengths.
Those 5 competencies apply to being successful anywhere. That's the kind of employee I'd like to work with. That's the kind of student that I'd like to have in my classroom. That's the kind of person I'd like to study with after school.
And that helps build a positive climate and environment that sets the tone for learning.
Research shows that SEL can have a positive impact on school climate and promote a host of benefits for students, including better academic performance, improved attitudes about school, fewer negative behaviors like office referrals or drug and alcohol use, and reduced emotional stress.
Every child can reach their full potential and are provided the supports and the resources that they need to reach that potential. My hope would be that families are engaged and feel welcomed at the school and can get the resources that they need through the school.
In order for students to meet their full potential academically, I think that their social and emotional needs need to also be met.
Social emotional learning is something that people can learn and that we can help to teach that. My wish or my hope is that schools see themselves as places of support for kids and families and community.
We are their #1 role model. Between modeling and direct engagement in their education and direct engagement with the school and the teachers and participating, the parent's the #1 educator from day one.
Those strategies that mom and dad share with them are also the same strategies that schools have shared with them.
I'm going to pause right there and just end that portion. And so I think that we got some really good, valuable information from the parents who were sharing in there and about how important social emotional learning is for our students, not only at school, but in their homes and when they go out into the community and in the future looking forward. And just to kind of reiterate, CASEL, like I mentioned before, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, they not only provide us with this wheel framework, but they also give us a definition for social and emotional learning, and I do want to share that with you all. Social emotional learning is an integral part of education and human development. SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. Okay. So social and emotional learning is, in a nutshell, about life skills. And like those of you who are viewing this presentation, I am the parent of school-aged children. And I will go on to say that my two children could not be more different from each other. I'll say they're wired very differently. So on the left of this presentation is my son, Joel. He's 9 years old and in 4th grade. And I'll say when he started school and started kindergarten, he experienced a lot of anxiety. He was, just would kind of clam up at school where he wouldn't complete his schoolwork. And so, his teachers were concerned. And so when we asked him about it, he said, I don't want to approach anything that I can't do perfectly. I want to try to do my best and I want it to be perfect. I don't want to make any mistakes. And so luckily his teachers and his counselor recognized that, and he was able to get some social skills support. And then also in the classroom, they worked on social and emotional learning skills so that he could develop that growth mindset and approach his schoolwork and understand that it's okay if I make a mistake, but how can I learn from that and move forward? My daughter to the right, Lena, she's 5 years old and she just started kindergarten this year. And she is the complete opposite. She's our wild child. She's free spirit. She says and does whatever she wants. She'll probably be some sort of artist someday. She loves to paint and draw. And so we just thought, oh, she's going to be, tackle any challenge that comes her way. And she has experienced the same perfectionist kind of mentality that my son has. And so again, thankfully the teachers have provided support for her. And then also in class, she's getting those social and emotional skills met through daily instruction and just some of the practices that her teachers are using. So that's just a little bit about how I see social and emotional learning not only benefiting students in RISD, but also my own kids at home. I get to see that they're learning those skills, and then we come home, they're able to practice those skills too. So they mentioned in the video just a little bit about some of the benefits of SEL, so I just wanted to reinforce those, that better academic performance, and a lot of times that comes from that growth mindset that I mentioned that my children struggled with. Improved attitudes and behaviors. So getting rid of that negative self-talk is really helpful for students as well. Less negative behaviors, not engaging in risky behaviors, and reduced emotional stress. We want school to be a place that's positive, and so social emotional learning helps us to reduce the negative stress that we sometimes can experience at school. And then lastly, we really want for social and emotional learning to prepare students for life after RISD. And so I'm going to click on this survey. It's an employment survey that was done to see what top attributes employers want to see on resumes. And a lot of times we tend to think that it's technical skills, the skills that you actually need to do the job. But this survey that was done in January shows that a lot of the social and emotional competencies show up at work. They want people who are problem solvers. They want people who have the ability to work in a team, have a strong work ethic, communication skills, whether written or verbal. So those are things that you can't get out of a degree program or vocational program. These are things that with SEL, we can teach our students and we can give them the opportunity to practice those skills. So just another reason why social and emotional learning is so important for our kiddos. Okay, so you might be wondering, what does social and emotional learning look like in RISD? So we kind of have 3 different layers that we use to approach social and emotional learning. So it's not just teaching, but it's really building a culture around social and emotional learning. So one area is curriculum instruction. all RISD students receive instruction in SEL from pre-K until 12th grade, okay? All our policies and practices are related to social and emotional learning. For example, all staff in RISD are required to receive 2 hours of training in social and emotional learning. So you can be rest assured that your child's teachers, their principal, their counselor, whoever's on their campus has to receive that training. Okay, and then lastly, families and communities. We really want to bring families, parents into social and emotional learning because we know that we have to partner together in order to make it effective. And so our monthly Live Wise, Live Healthy initiative allows for us to do that. So our social and emotional learning curriculum, I just want to share a little bit of information about that. Like I said, all students pre-K through 12th are receiving instruction in social and emotional learning. At the majority of our elementary campuses from pre-K through 5th grade, students are receiving about 30 minutes every morning in instruction from Sanford Harmony, a social and emotional learning curriculum that's brought to us from National University. Some of our other elementary campuses at the pre-K through 5th grade level are receiving the second step SEL curriculum in the same format. The 30 minutes at the beginning of the school day usually is when we do that social and emotional learning time, okay? And then our 6th graders at the elementary level, no matter what campus they are on, are receiving the second step middle school program. Okay, and that's really geared towards getting them ready for middle school and high school and kind of developing those social and emotional learning skills we want to make sure they have when they leave RISD. At our junior highs, 7th and 8th grade students are also receiving the second step middle school program. Our junior highs typically every junial high in RISD has an advisory every day, and so usually 1 or 2 days per week they have a social and emotional learning lesson. Okay, so it's a little bit different in frequency than the elementary level. And then at the high school, we are in the process of building a social and emotional learning curriculum. And so right now, we have some people at the district who are creating high school SEL lessons to deliver to our high school students. Okay, so that's kind of where we are with our high school program. Okay, and I mentioned earlier our practices and policies. So our adult SEL, we recognize that our teachers, any staff, bus drivers, whoever, need to have some awareness of social and emotional learning in order to impart those skills into our students, okay? So like I mentioned earlier, they are receiving those 2 hours every school year in social and emotional learning. This year, we decided to approach SEL for adults by offering up a theme. And our theme for this year is self-awareness and self-care for educators. And we did this because we want to be able to have our educators model those practices, especially during the pandemic when self-awareness and those self-care practices are important to, just kind of maintaining the status quo. And so that is what we're really trying to focus on for our educators, letting them know how to be self-aware and then them practicing those self-care techniques so that they in turn can model that for their students. The other thing is our 3 signature SEL practices. So in our meetings that we conduct, even in our lesson plannings that teachers provide, they are embedding those 3 signature practices. So the first practice is to have a welcoming ritual or an inclusion activity. So this is a time where you can make that connection between the content that's going to be taught and social and emotional learning skill. So even if it's a math class where they're learning about algebraic expressions, they can tie that to a self-management skill or a relationship skill if they're working in groups. So that's how the welcoming and inclusion activity kind of works. And then those engaging strategies. We want to make sure that students are not only getting the content, but seeing how it's relevant to their lives. So we're hoping to have engaging strategies that tie in, again, with those social and emotional learning skills. And then finally, an optimistic closure. Okay, so not just ending the lesson and moving on to the next thing, but really taking the time to reflect on their learning and again, tie it into a social and emotional learning competency. And then communicating expectations. We use those 5 competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, in our conversations with students about expectations for behavior and expectations for learning. So again, our practices and policies kind of wrap around social and emotional learning in our district. Okay, and so I mentioned earlier too that our initiative to include parents, families, and the community in social emotional learning is through Live Wise, Live Healthy. And so I'm going to click on the Live Wise, Live Healthy page, which is accessible from the main Richardson ISD website. And so if you go on here, you'll see our logo, and you'll just kind of see a little bit about that program, the social emotional learning program. And the monthly themes are there. So right now is October, and it's drug and violence prevention education. So everything is kind of tied around that theme for this month. And so I'm going to go to the newsletters really quickly, just so you can see kind of how we're approaching drug and violence prevention for this month. Okay, so you'll see on here that there's always 3 different components. There's a student component, a staff component, and a community component. And so this, like I said, drug and violence prevention, the main thing for this month is Red Ribbon Week, which is during this week. And our theme is be happy, be brave, and be drug-free. So we have SEL lessons that are geared towards that theme. We have some catch my breath lessons that are tied with that, and then some other lessons, guidance lessons from the counselors tied to substance abuse prevention. Our high school peer helpers and peer mediators are providing virtual presentations for elementary campuses on the refusal skills and healthy decision making. And then again, junior high and high school students will also receive guidance lessons. Our staff is also receiving information about drug prevention. And then our community, we had some events earlier this month. One was on drug prevention and education, and one was on cyberbullying and cyber safety. So again, something for everyone in RISD as far as living wise and living healthy.
And those videos are on our Parent University Parent Corner page. Parent University tab, scroll down and you'll see those.
Great, thank you. Okay, and so some other ways to engage SEL, not just in Richardson ISD, but if you wanted to practice that at home, I have some resources that I'd like to share with you as well. The first one over on the left are some games and activities. One is the Sanford Harmony Game Room. It's one of our curriculum providers. It's an app that you can download. It's for Android or iPhone or iPad. And it has some different games that you can play with your kids at home. My kids love doing it. And like I said, they're different grade levels, and there's questions that we can ask each other. And then there's an opportunity to kind of advance and keep score and things like that. So it's really fun and really engaging for kiddos. Another one from another curriculum provider is Captain Compassion. I'm going to click on that link as well, because this one it's really kind of geared more towards parents to discuss bullying at home. And it's a comic book, which I think really lends itself to kids really well. I know my son really likes reading it. And so they have some things that you can download. But if you go down to the bottom, you kind of go past the comic strips, which they're all the different weeks that they have so far are up there. But if you go down to the bottom, you'll see some resources for parents. For example, they have one video, what to do if your child witnesses bullying. Okay, so that really focuses on how to get your child to be, if they witness something, how to be an upstander and not just a bystander. What to do if your child is bullied. Okay, so a video just kind of giving you some tips about what to do with that. And then also what to do if you suspect or you know that your child is bullying others. Okay, so how to approach that too. Okay, so this is a great resource for parents to use to engage at home. Okay, and then here are some podcasts. I think one of them is geared towards children, the Imagine Neighborhood. We listened to some of it at home over the summer. They do a really good job of breaking down some of those touchy topics, things that are going on in the world, so that kids understand them. Okay, and so this Imagine Neighborhood is a great podcast to listen to. And again, it's accessible on many types of devices as well. Another great resource is the Grow Kinder podcast. And as you can imagine, it's about growing kinder or kindness. It's a great resource as well. I think it's probably geared more towards parents, and then again, how to have those conversations at home with your kids that may be kind of tough to tackle. Okay, so those are some great podcasts if you're really into listening to those. And then over here on the right, another great resource is the Parent Teen Connect website. And this is just parentteenconnect.org. If you go there, especially if you're the parents of tweens or teens, it has videos and kind of real life scenarios of parents talking about their relationship with their children at home and how they're approaching kind of that difficult time where children are trying to establish their independence, but also still need their parents. So there are some things on there like whether to let your kid keep their door open or closed, just some other things to kind of tackle responsibility, chores, things like that, that kind of come up as kids get older and again, trying to establish that independence. And then lastly, mindfulness. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that my son really struggles with anxiety. And so the Mind Yeti app, and even on YouTube, they have some videos as well, really helps him to kind of connect and be present in the moment and not get too worried. In fact, there are times where he will see me getting upset and say, "Mom, did you do your breathing?" Okay, so he's learned some of those strategies to help him cope and help him work through some of his problems just by taking a minute and being present with some mindfulness activities. So Mind Yeti, there is an app, and then there's also some free videos on YouTube as well. Okay, and then also I wanted to address too kind of parent social and emotional learning. And if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are, that we're able to pour into our children, but we have to make sure that we have our cup is full too. So I'm going to share just some ways that you can model self-awareness and self-care at home with your children. So the first thing is to identify and name emotions in the moment. I know there are times where I get frustrated with my kids. I mean, just last week, my son was behind on some assignments, and, I really try to take the time to tell him, I feel like you're not taking school seriously, or you're not taking your father and I seriously when you don't do your schoolwork. Okay, so he understands that his actions not only affect him, which sometimes it's hard for him to see outside of himself, but can affect other people because we're worried about him. We want to make sure that he's doing the things that he needs to do. And then also I have to admit mistakes when I'm wrong. There's times where I'm, frustrated. I want to go home and just tune out, and I don't want to hear my kids talking sometimes. And I need to recognize that, I need to apologize for that and say how I'm going to make things right. I'm sorry I was in such a rush and I didn't get to talk to you about your math test. If you have time before baseball practice, I'd love to talk. Okay, so being able to admit those mistakes and how you'll make them right shows your kids how to do the same thing. And then building awareness of how your emotions impact students or children. So I mentioned earlier, sometimes I just don't want to talk. And what am I expressing to my children? I'm expressing that their time is not valuable, or I don't value speaking with them. So I need to make sure that even though I may feel drained or whatever, that I'm not letting my emotions impact how they feel about themselves either. And then also I think it's really important that as parents, we identify and discuss our strengths and our limitations. And I know for myself, it's hard to identify the strengths that I have and with my children, but I think it's really important. I might share with them like, I'm a really good baker, or my limitations too. Like, you know, I'm not really good at running, but maybe I can just try to run down the block one time and then I'll go from there. You know, so seeing that there might be things that I struggle with, but I'm willing to work on them as well. Okay, and then modeling good self-care. Okay, so I do try to talk to my children about my own self-care practices and what things work for me to take care of myself. And in turn, I think my children have developed their own self-care practices as well. For my daughter, like I mentioned earlier, she takes time to make art. You know, she loves to paint, and she'll just sit with her headphones in and paint and just kind of relax that way. And that really helps her to kind of zone out and approach something that she needs to do a little bit differently later on. And even when she was in pre-K, she was at Dobie, and her teacher told me that, you know, when she felt overwhelmed, she would go and take kind of a time for self break. So she knew, I just need to get a little bit time and I can get back to what I need to do. And then also talking to your children about self-care explicitly. So thinking about sleep too. You know, I think my kids are still young, but as they get older, prioritizing their time so that they do get enough sleep, you know, so that maybe they're not on social media all the time, but they're able to get their schoolwork done, if they have an outside job or extracurricular activities, that they're able to manage all those things and still get enough sleep, because we know that if we don't get enough sleep, it's really hard to function effectively. So that would be my big push there, is just really talking to our kiddos about how important sleep is from an early age. Okay, and just know with the pandemic and all of its challenges, there are more social and emotional and mental health challenges. And in Richardson ISD, our campus staff and our district staff are evaluating this on an ongoing basis, trying to figure out what we can do to really meet the needs of our students and their families in this area. And so we're in this together. Just by being here and taking the time to learn a little bit more about social and emotional learning, we're taking the first step in partnering together to make SEL a success for all our learners in Richardson ISD. And like I said, I'm Ashley Campbell, and I'm going to stick around for a little while to answer any questions. But if you do feel that you want to ask questions later, you can always contact me, ashley.campbell@risd.org. I'm always happy to help.
All right, thank you, Ashley. That was wonderful. Great information. So if you have any questions, we can always type them into the chat and we will answer them as we get them. So I want to thank you again for taking a little bit of your time this evening to listen to this wonderful information to help our students succeed. So, you know, let's remember to always take care of ourselves and, you know, work with our children so that they can also be, you know, productive and, you know, be successful in school. So thank you, Ashley. I don't see any questions in the chat right now. I did see someone coming in a little late, but we want you to know that this is this particular presentation will be available. We're going to record it, and it'll be available in our Parent University tab in our Parent University video library. So it'll be in English and Spanish. So we appreciate you taking the time again to come and to join us. So
Miguel, I
yes,
just want to make sure, will the resources I shared, like the links to those, will that be up on the Parent Corner as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna include that information there as well.
Okay, great.
So, if there aren't any questions, then I think this will conclude our presentation. Again, thank you so much, Ashley, for bringing this great information to us and our families.
No problem. It was a pleasure to do this. So thank you for having me.
You bet. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime.